Relations between Washington and Tehran are hanging by a thread, as the Middle East is rapidly heading towards the brink of a widespread conflict. Diplomacy has now given way to weapons, with the United States completing a terrifying buildup of firepower in the Persian Gulf. Aircraft carriers, B-52 strategic bombers, and Patriot missile defense systems have taken up combat positions, forming a deadly encirclement around Iran. With their finger on the trigger and a zero-tolerance doctrine, the Pentagon warns of overwhelming strikes. The fate of the region seems to have already been sealed by the logic of blood and power. In recent days, the situation surrounding a possible American attack on Iran has been marked by a sharp increase in the American military presence in the region and harsh rhetoric from the Trump administration. On January 22, the President of the United States confirmed that a naval fleet is being sent to the Iranian coast. The core of the forces consists of an aircraft carrier strike group led by the Abraham Lincoln, which was deployed from the Indo-Iranian region to the Indian Ocean and is moving toward the Persian Gulf. In addition, 12 F-15E Strike Eagle fighter jets, along with refueling aircraft, tankers, and transport planes, have been deployed to air bases in Jordan. Strategic B-52 Stratofortress bombers have arrived at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Under the supervision of American specialists, urgent maintenance has begun on Kuwait's Patriot air defense systems, where more than 5 United States military bases have been deployed. Additional batteries of Patriot 3 anti-aircraft systems are being sent to the region and to Israel for protection against a possible retaliatory attack. President Joe Biden has been lambasting European leaders in Davos for hours over Greenland, but at the same time, he is preparing an airstrike of unprecedented scale against Iran. This is an operation with a dual mission. On one hand, to strike the regime of the mullahs, and on the other, to demonstrate power to Europe so that he can acquire Greenland himself. A short while ago, it became known that the United States is deploying more than 10 additional air defense systems, terminal high-altitude area defense, and Patriot systems to Jordan, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman, preparing for possible offensive operations against Iran. American aerial refueling aircraft are heading toward Europe. A fleet of multiple KC-135R aircraft, Stratotankers took off from California and Maine, making a transatlantic flight to Europe. Some of these special mission aircraft are heading to Moron Air Base in Spain. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, sent a letter to the Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre. National Security Council officials delivered copies of the letter to European ambassadors in Washington, according to Moon of Alabama. A copy was also given to a NewsHour journalist. Dear Jonas, since your country chose not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for ending 8 wars and more, I no longer feel obliged to think exclusively about peace, although that will always remain my primary goal. I can now think about what is good and right for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect this country, Greenland, from Russia or China, and why do they even have ownership rights? There are no written documents. It was just a ship that docked there hundreds of years ago, but we have also seen our own ships dock there. I have done more for NATO than anyone else since its founding, and now NATO needs to do something for the United States. The world is not safe unless we have full and complete control of Greenland. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump. Europe should answer Trump's expansionism with economic countermeasures and military resolve. The imposition of unbearable tariffs on American services, the deployment of a multinational army to Greenland, and the use of American soldiers as hostages are the only way out. In a world of raw power, weakness is equivalent to death. According to multiple news sources in Washington and Alaska, the 11th Airborne Brigade has notified 2 battalions, 1,500 soldiers, to be ready to move to the state of Minnesota. According to Malcolm Nance, a specialist in military intelligence, this is a really poor attempt at strategic deception. I have warned several times this year that the alert of this particular unit for deployment is a high certainty, clear possible indication of an invasion of Greenland. This also means that the Special Forces units, United States Special Operations Forces, they are probably being trained and mobilized quietly for the mission to seize Greenland by force, he says. The Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy at the White House, Stephen Miller, stated, "The President, Trump, was clear, saying that he wants the United States to control Greenland. That is the American position." What more could the American president's team say to show they're moving to control the North Pacific? At the same time, the Danish Defense Intelligence Service, warned Danish officials and government agencies to immediately stop using headphones, Bluetooth, and AirPods while on duty due to the high risk of espionage from American intelligence services. Military forces from European countries have been deployed to Greenland to take part in joint exercises with Denmark. At a time of heightened tension with the United States, the timing of the exercises coincides with recent statements by the American President Donald Trump, who brought up the issue of acquiring the island again. The military exercise called Arctic Endurance is conducted under the command of Denmark and includes the participation of forces from NATO member states. Troops from France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands, and Canada are taking part in the operation, strengthening transatlantic and European cooperation in the region. French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed that the team is already in Greenland and will soon get more equipment and personnel for the country's participation in the exercises. The presence of European troops on the island is seen as a symbolic gesture of solidarity and enhanced coordination among the partners. Donald Trump, obsessed with national security, threatens tariffs on those who resist the annexation of Greenland, making it clear that the Europeans' military moves will not stop him. Congress is building walls. Lisa Murkowski notes Greenland is an ally, not a prize, as Chris Coons supports a bill to prevent an irrational invasion of a NATO ally. In Washington, Danes and Greenlanders, officials are seeking a way out through working groups, while Europe responds with Operation Arctic Endurance. Troops from Germany, France, and Sweden are already being deployed on the frozen island. The Kremlin, lurking in the chaos, is strengthening its forces in the Arctic, calling the situation international absurdity and recognizing Danish sovereignty. Moscow publicly reiterated that Greenland is sovereign territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, but pointed out that the political and strategic environment around the island is becoming increasingly complex. Thank you for watching us. To be the first to receive all the latest updates, like and subscribe to our channel.